Hey guys, we're back for another week of Movie Mainline. This is episode 6. We are now a finely tuned machine. No thanks to me, all thanks to
There's a
Lewis.
couple squeaks. There's a couple squeaks still. I
Squeaks.
hear we need some WD-40 every once in a while. Mostly me.
Folks. No, folks. If you're not or if you're not watching this on YouTube, when he said there's a couple of squeaks, I think I could have sworn Luis Lacau was pointing right at
No, no,
me.
no, no. I was pointing right back at myself. It was like,
Yeah.
no, this is all here. It's all here, right here.
So we are Luis Lacau is one of our hosts, Brucepurkey, aka Bruce Purkey, with a new webcam, folks. That looks very bright, and I like it. And there is Bring Back Andrew Watches Movies. That is the artist formerly known as Eric Holmes. He's quite the great screenwriter.
Hardline Holmes, formerly known as Hardline Holmes.
First off, let's just start off with Bring Back Andrew Watches Movies. Why the name? Why the moniker Eric Holmes for that?
Well,
By the
the Pirates. Well, we'll get into that later, but we talked about the Movie Bears podcast and William Lindis, and we briefly brought up Andrew Martin and Andrew Watches Movies, and I was just thinking it's been a while since he came out with the podcast, and This is just my little tribute to him, to saying, Andrew, I love you.
We miss you.
Andrew, I miss you. And Andrew, please bring back Andrew Watches Movies. He was doing a really cool thing with his podcast towards the later, and it started getting a lot more personal, and I really liked what he was doing. And, I just kind of stepped away, maybe personal stuff. I don't know, but I would really love to hear him again. And so,
I heard rumblings this week, just talking to him online, that I think he might be recording or considering recording right now. So hopefully that's true.
Well, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Before we get going, this is going to be a little bit of an edit, Lewis, and I apologize. I actually am on I'm on a slower Wi-Fi, and I wanted to go to a faster Wi-Fi. What would happen if I changed my Wi-Fi? Would there be
I don't
lag?
know. Maybe.
Let me just check 1 second.
Behind the scenes.
And as we watch him freeze, I used a special
Did
power.
I freeze?
So
No, not
Did
yet.
I freeze?
you did not
But you
freeze.
will.
Yeah, sorry.
My internet connection is unstable. I just want to make sure that this is okay. And can you hear me okay?
I'm just looking at Eric's face.
Oh, wait, is Eric? Yeah, okay. So no. Eric's fine. So are we good? Are we okay? So that's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Bruce, are you okay? Okay, so Bruce is okay. Okay, so Bruce Purkey, Brucifer.
Yes.
Brucifer for the second week. How's your
Yes.
week been? What's have you been watching a lot of movies?
Yeah, watching a lot of movies. I've been rewinding quite a bit. I will talk a little bit about the value of this podcast to me as a person in rewinds. So,
By the way, folks, before we get to Lewis, Bruce Purkey has been very diligent out of all of us four. He's actually posted a video on what just really seminal movie experiences, and he wants to get more audience engagement. And that's something that all three of us have got to get on board, as well as reach out. So Bruce has been very diligent about that kind of one-on-one experience with movies, movie making, storytelling. I'm all into it. Speaking of someone who does so many things, Luis Lacau, how do you find the time on a given week to do so many podcasts and consume so much stuff?
I haven't watched that many this week, honestly. Like these are pretty much like the 3 or 4 that I've been able to get into, just because a bunch of stuff happening at work and all that. So, but yes, I still find time. You still have to have fun, and downtime. And I got lucky that I have my fiance that loves fucking movies too. So she
fucking movies, huh?
Yeah. And you're gonna understand exactly why when you listen to what I actually have to bring to the table this week. So they're really fun.
Well, to put you on the spot, Lewis, how's your fiance as a podcast partner?
Oh, she's awesome. She brings me out of my shell, honestly, a lot more, and we just have a fun time talking about. We just did an episode on Nickelodeon shows and stuff like that, and just a throwback to that and where our childhood was with that. And we're thinking about doing Nick at Night next, so like all the classic shows like I Love Lucy, Mary Tyler Moore, all that stuff. So yeah, we're excited about doing those stuff.
Is she almost as big a pop culture geek as you, Luis?
Oh yeah, yeah. If not more. Like she gets me. She is able to push me past. And you'll see with some of the selections why. Like we're going real back, like to like the 40s, 50s movies and stuff like that. And I always had a blind spot for a lot of comedies from that era. So she's gotten me, catching me up on a lot of that. Like Bruce, I enjoyed a lot of the horror movies from that era, but not much of the comedies.
Right.
So yeah, she's catching me up on those.
Well, this week, this episode, it's going to be in Bring Back Andrew Watches Movies / Eric Holmes, Greg Debt Collectors Srisavasdi collabo. I'm almost 50, but I think can I still use collabo? I think that's short for collaboration, right? Collabo. So. Bruce is giving me a very view askew, askance look. He's a little bit fearful at my verbiage. But we're going to talk about Scott Adkins. It's going to be a running theme of our podcast. The glory, the genius of Scott Adkins and Jesse V. Johnson, Debt Collectors. Right? It's called Debt Collectors. Eric Holmes.
Yes, Debt Collectors. I didn't know this, but that's a sequel.
Yes.
and
many mysteries of life.
Yeah. I was like, well, I'll let you talk about it, but we'll get into it. But yeah, it took me by surprise a little bit.
Because in all fairness, to Eric's point, did you guys know Debt Collectors is a sequel to something? Nope. Because the original movie is called The Debt Collector, and it was more of a Scott Adkins film. And I think he and Mandalore I'm guessing on this, but they hit it off so well. Within a couple of years, it became Debt Collectors. And we're going to talk about how we had no idea. I mean, they basically recapped the entire movie in the first act by talking about their respective characters. So that's something that me and Eric Holmes will be doing for this episode. But first, before we get into picks, remember, that's what we do on the show. We get 10 to 12 picks for you guys to listen to hopefully watch. You'll have it by the end of the week or the beginning of the week. Whenever you listen to this, you'll have some good picks to go check out, and would love to hear your own thoughts about our respective picks. But before we get to that, we always do a Movie Mainline rewind segment where we watch each other's recommendations from the previous week or maybe a couple weeks ago. I believe Bruce Purkey, you saw a couple of rewinds because you're the one. Three. My goodness.
I saw one from each of you.
Wow.
So,
wow. Okay. So let's start off. What do you got? What do you got, Bruce?
Well, I'm pretty sure that Luis is with me on this one. So the most obvious one was Thevastofnight.
Yes.
And we both, I think, watched that. So we can maybe do it together. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I mean, Greg said it pretty well, but I mean, I thought it was excellent. The only thing I would add into it, as far as my own take on it, was I was really struck by how it was kind of one of those movies that takes place in like a night. And it's kind of, for me, like the really nerdy version of, say, Dazed and Confused or American Graffiti, when all those were about like jocks or stoners or semi-cool kids, like, and coming of age stuff. This is like, well, what happened on that night to the nerds? Like, what did they do? You know? and it's kind of like their adventure and their mystery that they uncover. But it's a lot more than that. And I think we should definitely do, we talked about doing some spoiler spin-off mini episodes for people to kind of value add. And I think this would be a good one for us to do at some point.
I agree. This would definitely be a good one to do. Honestly, the only thing I could add to that is I love the aesthetic value of this film. It being a freshman effort of this director, that was something to behold. Like, this was beautifully shot. And then on top of that, it doesn't take away from the story. Like a lot of times when you have a movie that is way too, like, you know, beautifully shot, it takes away from the story somehow. This does not. It does a balancing act of both the characters, the actors do stellar performances, honestly.
Well, he does the dazzling movement shots, but then he has other scenes where he literally just sits there.
Yeah.
And like there's a scene at the switchboard where she's at the switchboard, and I didn't count it out, but 9-10 minutes or something. And she's just going through and she's just trying to uncover what's happening all that sudden. Oh, I wanted to mention too, I don't know if you guys have read about this, but there's the most obvious kind of showy scene where the camera basically floats all the way from the switchboard all the way to the radio station. Yeah. And the director had said that what he did there, I don't know if you heard this too, Greg, he gave a kid the camera on a go-kart. And he said, go from here to there. So it's almost what I said. When I saw it, I thought of Evil Dead, where in Evil Dead, what Sam Raimi did is he just stuck the camera on these boards and he like ran around. And he had like, he called it like a Vaseline cam, where he had the boards on a thing and he like slid it back and forth because he couldn't afford the stuff. Yeah. So I just loved the high quality aesthetic that he got with super low budget. So I love that.
And you cannot tell that this was low budget in any way or form. This was beautifully disguised. It's something I definitely recommend this. I put it up there with one of those like gems, those finds, like It Follows. Like it has that aesthetic, or Blue Ruin. It feels very much like those films. Like you discover it and you're like, holy shit, I want to watch everything this director does now.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. No. It's a great film, Eric. I think you're gonna love it. I think most of the people I've just heard their reactions or seen the reactions. This is one of those movies that you'll fall in love with, especially if you love long takes and swirling camera movements. And then it, like Luis was saying, it's a great balance. It's a great balance of just these long takes, but then there's some still moments where that just really grabs you. There's a very mesmeric feel to Thevastofnight. Yeah, and the ending is pretty. I mean, the ending's pretty good. Close Encounters is one thing. Yeah, I mean, Close Encounters is a memorable thing, and obviously this movie takes a page or two from that film, but with an indie budget, it's such a fantastic movie. So Thevastofnight, currently streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Brucifer, you've got something.
One other tiny thing I would say about Thevastofnight, then I'll go to my other rewind, and I'll go to the other rewinds really fast. But I wanted to say it also is like the origin story to Coast to Coast AM. So whoever knows about Coast to Coast AM, this is like the germ of that. And it really has that. People who like that show, if you've ever laid in bed at night listening to Coast AM and like drifting off as they're talking about aliens or whatever crazy stuff, it feels like that. It's very storytelling.
Is that Art Bell? Is that
Art Bell? It's someone else
George
now.
Norrie. And I don't know if someone after George Norrie. I remember the first time listening to Coast. I was just driving around at night and just turned it on, and they're like, and I saw a werewolf, and I was like, oh, this person's pretty crazy. And then I think it was Art Bell at the time. Was like, tell me more about this werewolf. I completely believe you. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
So I think if you like that vibe, if you can get into Coast to Coast and understand that what it is, you get that with this too. So quickly, I will do a rewind very fast. Avengement. I can't top what Eric said about Avengement, but Avengement is awesome. I know we're going to go more to Atkins. All I will say is if you didn't stay till the after the credit scene in Avengement, you should do that. At the very end, there's an alternate take of something that happened in the movie, which is just a nice little punctuation on it.
I did not stay till the very end.
Neither did I. Yeah. I was not expecting Nick Fury to pop out, so I was like...
So just go to the end of the credits. There's a little tiny reversion of one of the scenes you saw earlier, and you're like, yeah, that's cool. And then I would also say that not being a real action martial arts kind of movie guy, it's not really my genre. Yeah. I really appreciate, and this is where I think that other listeners can kind of get the value added. Like, if Luis or I come with a horror movie, we're probably coming with something that's a little bit better than your average crap movie. Same if an action movie comes your way from Eric, I would say check it out because it may be something you wouldn't have ever come across before. So that's the kind of thing I hope we bring to people, is that if it's something that isn't really your cup of tea, maybe just check it out. We might have something that we're giving you that's above and beyond. And I was also struck by all the awesomeness that Eric said is totally true. I was struck by
Eric went off last week on Scott Adkins, by the way.
Go back and listen to what he said. But I would say that the way he could kick ass by making someone miss, he could make someone miss more aggressively than most people can kick ass. And I was just struck by that, how many times he'd make someone miss and make them kick their own ass as he was kicking their ass. It was so good. It's just hard as nails. bone crunching, but character driven, and it's just good shit, I would say, right there.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then last but not least, I was listening to Lewis last week and he was going into a whole bunch of Flanagan stuff, and I thought I'd caught all the Flanagan stuff, but I'd never seen Before I Wake. So I went and saw Before I Wake from Flanagan. So,
which Andrew watches movies. Andrew Martin loves that movie. And I remember driving down some street in the valley and listening to him just talk about how emotionally resonant that film was. So it's been several years, but I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, I think it's 2015, maybe?
I
don't know. It's
2017, 2017-ish.
3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
Kate Bosworth and what's his name? Thomas Jane, and Jacob Tremblay, this little kid.
Yeah, he does a phenomenal job, dude.
And all I would say is, like, that's the thing about Flanagan. For everybody who doesn't really know why Flanagan is good in horror, is he looks really middle of the road, and his movies sound like just boring, average horror movies, and they even seem like it partway through. A lot of his, you're just like, okay, well, I've kind of seen this before. He always has a way of adding strange emotional impact to his movies that you aren't expecting, and that is kind of the trick that he pulls off in every one of his movies. And the best of his are even above that. This is middle. I think this is good, but it's not like the best of his for sure. But it still does things that trick you, in the way it deals with grief in ways that you're not quite expecting it to do, and the way it always overcomes. He always has an element of CGI that's like, it's okay, it's CGI. It's not the scariest thing you've ever seen, and you're kind of almost ready to like discount it. But he just he hits you with something emotional you're not expecting. So, by the way, we didn't mention. So that Thevastofnight is Amazon Prime, Avengement is Netflix, and I believe Before I Wake is Netflix too.
Yeah, it's Netflix.
So you can all go see these really easily.
Eric Holmes, are you a Mike Flanagan guy? Do you like?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah. Well, I didn't see Oculus, and I think he did Ouija 2.
Yeah,
I didn't see
Ouija
that.
2. Origins of Evil. Yeah.
That I should, because I did see Gerald's Game. Gerald's Game was great. Dr. Sleep, love that. And saw part of Hunting on Hill House. Was that whatever? I saw like the big take everyone was talking about. I didn't stick through the series because that's too much commitment. I'm sorry, I can't do TV shows.
I'm with you. It's tough. It's tough.
The thing I love about movies, hour and a half, 2 hours, you're done, front to back, done. These 10-part docu-series and 13 seasons of whatever. It's like, I think they could get that story done in a trilogy at most. I don't know that I want to watch 13 hours of something for one season. And then, but I do get caught on some certain TV shows. It's just that one I didn't stick with. But yeah, I do like Mike Flanagan.
I really love Dr. Sleep. I thought that was great. But the whole thing, I was really I saw the longer cut. There's an extended cut or something of Dr. Sleep.
Yes.
It's a long movie. But to Bruce's point, really? Let's see.
I think
but
it's
anyways,
like 2.5, right?
Yeah, I guess I guess for me it's long because I like 90-minute movies. But I think the best part of Dr. Sleep for me was the relationship between Ewan McGregor's character and the little girl. When they have those moments and they bond, I thought that was just obviously you're basing it off the novel itself by Stephen King. I just wish there was just that movie itself, whether it's a follow-up to The Shining or not. I know it's just he's very good at the emotional stakes, especially just from watching that. So
I kind of almost wish that he did his own version of The Shining and then Doctor Sleep. So instead of trying to make the book movie and make the Kubrick movie and mash them into one, he could have just did his remake of The Shining and then did Doctor Sleep however he felt it to be, and then
make his whole universe basically that way.
Yeah. But I mean, as it is, it was still really good as it is.
He was like, I'm not touching Kubrick. He's like, I'm not touching Kubrick with a 10-foot pole. There's no way I'll meet up to that standard. And he was like, nope.
Well, I mean, he kind of it's not like he didn't try, because I mean, there was the Shining was definitely all over that movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's hard because with the Overlook, you can't.
Yeah.
You got to pair it Kubrick because you can't really top that atmosphere from The Shining.
Dude, that movie gives me the chills still. Like, I get goosebumps just watching that opening sequence, the music with the helicopter shot. Oh my God, that thing is gorgeous. And when you know the story already, it just gets you like, oh shit gonna get real quick.
Well, speaking of stuff getting real quick, what do you got, Louis, for your rewinds this week?
Okay, so the first one that I am doing is called Boing Boing. This is a 1965.
Boing Boing. So I don't know.
And this is actually starring Tony Curtis, Jerry Lewis, and is directed by John Rich. And this is basically Tony Curtis is basically running 3 different relationships at the same time with 3 different stewardesses that are on 3 different schedules. So the housemaid is fucking hilarious because she has to change everything from the picture on the mantle to the food that she cooks, because these are all airline stewardesses. So they have different schedules and they come in at different times, and they come into the apartment at random times. So she changes from German to British to American, and it is awesome. And then Jerry Lewis. Which one?
What year did you say it was?
1965.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jerry Lewis jumps in as the best friend of Tony Curtis, quote unquote best friend, and he comes into the middle of this and kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Because it so happens that they're introducing this new airplane that changes all the schedules of all the stewardesses. So he has to rejuggle all 3 of them in one night. And oh my God, it is just hilarious with Tony Curtis in one of his best performances, which is saying a lot. And Jerry Lewis doing a phenomenal job with his stand-up. And it's just a fun movie. Don't take it serious. Just enjoy the crazy melodrama that is this movie. But it's a really good find. And
how did you find it? How did you decide to check that movie out?
That is actually one of Naomi's favorite movies. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's check it out. And that one is actually streaming on Pluto TV. So if you have Amazon Fire Stick, you could get it for free. It's with ads, but it's free.
Pluto TV. Boing Boing. Wow, Boing. I have never. Wow, that is pretty good. Boing Boing.
I've never heard of Boing Boing.
I never either. Never in my life. And I'm not a big Jerry Lewis fan, but this does a fucking great job.
Well, we're gonna boing over to you, Eric. What do you got for our picks? What have you seen last week?
The rewind or just a normal picks?
Just a normal pick.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start off with this one. It's not a. It's a movie I'm sure a lot of people listening to this has seen. I've been watching a lot of movies with my nephew lately, and he likes scary movies, but he also likes a bunch of kids movies, and so I try to steer him towards something I want to see that that he would be interested in.
How old is he?
5.
Oh, cool.
And I tried to steer him towards something that I would see that he'd probably like, so we're not just constantly watching the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And well, it's worked out pretty good because I showed him a trailer for Beastmaster. He was riveted.
Yes. Beastmaster.
So Beastmaster, 1982, directed by Don Coscarelli, and what can you say about Beastmaster?
Rip Torn.
Rip Torn.
Tanya Roberts, was she in that one? No, not Tanya Roberts.
Yeah.
Tanya
Roberts.
Was it?
I don't think so. I was just throwing that out there. Let's see. Was Mark Singer in it too? I'm just guessing.
He was Dar Master, Dar the Beastmaster. But there's not much I can, if you haven't seen Beastmaster, watch it. It's still pretty awesome. But one thing I wanted to bring up was we get done watching that, and then we start going through Beastmaster 2 through the portal of time.
Oh no!
And Beastmaster 3.
No.
I have Braxis.
Oh no!
Do not make those mistakes.
No.
No.
Those aren't Don Coscarelli, right?
No. Those are I don't know who did Through the Portal of Time, but the Aya Braxis was a female director, and she's done just a bunch of.
I think those two were direct.
Those are not good movies. Just don't watch them.
They were both direct to TV. I don't think that they're
probably
straight to video type of thing. I don't know.
There's video probably.
Well, like the Aya Braxis, for example. Like one of the things I like about Beastmaster is that it's like really dirty looking. Yeah. You know, it kind of helps you bring you into that world. And the Through the Portal of Time and Aya Braxis is just kind of it's got that what do you call it, that
clean
soap opera sheen to it, where it looks real smooth and weird. Aya Braxis, there's a character at the end of that, Braxis. He turns into this big demon thing, and it looks looks like one of the fucking dinosaurs from the Jim Henson's Dinosaurs.
Nice.
So he puts Aya Braxis and he changes. It's like whatever. And all I'm thinking in my head is.
Louis, do we have licensing for that song?
I wrote that song. It's cool. It's cool.
It's all him, man.
Only several seconds.
But yeah, Beastmaster, watch it. If you get some friends together and want to get drunk and watch the So Bad It's Good movies, check out Through the Portal of Time and I Have Braxis, but be warned, they're not good movies.
But the Beastmaster, it's dirty looking, but is it cheesy? It's good, or is it just actually...
No, a little, but I mean, it takes itself really seriously.
Yeah, I didn't know
and
that.
so you kind of, and it's dirty and creepy enough that it just kind of works. It's not quite Lord of the, it's not quite on the level of Lord of the Rings.
Let's see if
but
the
like
environment
if
Repo.
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember,
Repo
Don Coscarelli is like the Phantasm dude, so you got to remember that.
Yeah.
So you know that he's going to bring like weirdness to it, entertaining. It's always going to have something strange happening, but he's going to have his own. He's going to have his own spin on it, and it's going to keep you interested for sure. So
every week on Movie Mainline, I make sure, because I'm the most superficial out of these four, I name drop quite a bit. One of the many highlights of my horrible life is several years ago they had a press day because they released a box set of Phantasm stuff. So I was able to have a one-on-one with Don Coscarelli, and I am ashamed. If I had probably seen the Beastmaster or a lot of his other work, I would have probably asked those questions. But it was only I've only seen his. I think he did this movie called Bubba Hotep. I think I saw that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that movie's great.
So, but he was the coolest guy. Coscarelli was just a really unassuming good guy, and you could tell, to Bruce's point, that the whole Phantasm universe, for whatever budget he puts into each of his movies, that's especially very Don Coscarelli-esque. This is his world. It's not budgeted by Fox or Universal. It's not under some kind of big umbrella. So what would be interesting is I don't see many directors having this this franchise under a DIY indie budget. And you got to give Coscarelli props.
It's as if Sam Raimi never made it, and he kept making an Evil Dead movie like every 8 or 9 years for like 30 years. That's kind of what it's like,
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
weird.
They even have like the Sphere Collector's Edition that has all 3 discs, and they actually come out like the blades. It is freaking great, and they only sell it in Europe. And I'm like, I've been trying to get my hands on that for years, and I still haven't been able to find it.
I'm sure there's thousands and thousands of Phantasm fans out there.
Oh
yeah.
Big time. Oh my god,
Cool.
yeah.
Oh, I should add with Beastmaster. I was watching it with my 5-year-old nephew. His take on the movie, he was enthralled by the entire thing, and so now he just wants to watch Beastmaster again. Hey Brandon, what does Beastmaster do? And he just kind of looks at his hand because he's got the burn mark in his hand. He just looks at his hand and looks up and goes, "Ah!" Like he's going.
Wow. Yeah. The Beastmaster.
So yeah, it's child approved as well.
Wait, so this is on? You saw this on YouTube? I'm sorry. How did you get that?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
Oh,
I got it on DVD, but I think it might even be on YouTube.
I think I just saw it on Amazon Prime. It
is.
popped up on there, I believe.
Yeah, it might even be on Netflix too. It's everywhere. You can find it anywhere. In fact, I think that's how that movie got popular to begin with. Is it played everywhere on cable when it came out, and so everyone's like, "Well, I guess we're watching Beastmaster because why not?"
It would show constantly. They wouldn't have Conan, but they would have Beastmaster all the time. Yeah.
You should make them watch Masters of the Universe too.
Oh, you've seen it. You've seen it. He liked the beginning part, and then he kind of lost interest after He-Man got to the normal world, as most people did.
Yeah.
So, trivia question to three of you guys. I'm sure all of you, if not at least one of you, will get it. So, Tanya Roberts was in The Beastmaster. We all know her as one of the cast members from Charlie's Angels, but she had her own fantasy adventure film in 1984. Do you remember what that movie was?
I thought she was in Red. She was in Red Sonja. Wasn't she in Red Sonja?
I don't think she might have been in Red Sonja, but in 1984, she starred in. Oh, she was also in A View to a Kill. She was one of the Bond girls. But a year before that, she played Sheena in the movie.
Oh, Warrior Princess or whatever it is.
Yes, Sheena.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Sheena.
Yeah, I remember Sheena.
What do you have her IMDb up?
Yes, I
now
do.
we all gotta know.
What did she do later? Because we got drunk later on, and we were looking up all her movies, and
not your nephew, right? Not your nephew.
No, he doesn't get drunk on weekends. But we
school nights. Get drunk on school nights.
we were looking up her movies later on, and I was actually kind of surprised because Mark Singer was just basically a bunch of stuff you never heard of, and then various Beastmaster projects. And we were looking, and she actually had looked like a pretty decent career, but I was so drunk when we were talking about it that I couldn't remember any of the good ones.
I mean, well, her biggest one after Sheena was in 1998 to 2004. She starred in 81 episodes of That 70s Show. So that was her big.
Maybe that was it. She played the mom.
I never saw that show.
Okay.
I don't think she was the mom. No, I think she was an additional character that they added on there.
No,
81 episodes.
What's the redhead? Sweet. The redhead Donna? Is that her name? What? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. What was the name of the redhead? I never saw that show. I just know Ashton Kutcher was in it. Danny Masterson, Mila Kunis, Laura Prepon. Is that what you think? Laura Prepon, maybe? Deborah Jo Rupp.
That's the mom. Yeah.
Deborah Jo Rupp is the mom. Yeah, and then Kurt. We all know Kurtwood Smith. So yeah. Those were the big Tanya Roberts credits. But okay, Lewis, what do you got?
MDB, folks, get lost in it.
Get lost in it. Yeah, after the Beastmaster. I'm sorry, Lewis? Oh, Bruce. Okay. Bruce, what you got?
All right. I'll start with the more artistically valid one, and then I'll go trashier as the night progresses.
Nice. Very good.
So I'll start with 2019, and I think we started the podcast right after I'd seen this, so it didn't get on there. Les Miserables, 2019. Not the classic story, but the modern French movie, if any of you have seen that movie.
It's the one with Anne Hathaway, right?
Yeah, not the one with Anne Hathaway. This stars, I got to look it up because I can't say any of these names. The director is Ladie Lee. He's from, oh boy, I can't even remember where he's from. And then we've got Damien Bonnard, Alexis Manati, and Gerbel Jonga. I can't even say his names. I'm sorry. Okay, so basic concept. It's almost a French Training Day. So you've got these two French cops, and they're on. They have a name of the team they're on, the Anti-Crime Brigade, and they basically go into the kind of areas of Paris where you've got all these different groups that are kind of vying for their areas. You've got little crime lords, you got immigrant groups, you got a whole bunch of groups all together. They go in every day and they kind of try to keep the peace. And they get a brand new guy from out of town who's just come onto the force, and he's going with them on his first day. And that's kind of your basic concept. And unlike Training Day, it's not quite as over the top as Training Day. You don't have a guy that's just like hardcore bad guy. I'm going to show you the ropes. But it is more like these two cops that have been there every day, and they do know the ropes, they kind of know how it goes there, and they're bringing this guy who doesn't know anything about it into the scene. And what's really strong about it is it kind of follows a variety of groups. So it has a group of kids that it follows. It's got a guy that I think they call the mayor, and he's kind of the head of the crime area there. And you got a couple other groups, and they all come together with these cops and intersect, and you get a pretty entertaining day in the life of a crime story. Really good.
Ooh, Les Miserables.
And that is on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Is it action packed? If you want action,
It's not super action packed, but it's got enough tension. There's an event that goes down midway through the movie that twists everything and really cranks up the tension. So the first half, you're kind of meeting all the groups and seeing a day in the life and kind of getting a feel for that world from all sides, which is really good, as opposed to just the cop sides. You kind of go away and you'll have introductions to these different sides. But then when this one turning event occurs, it cranks up the tension. And from that point forward, you're like, uh-oh, the shit's gone down. What's going to happen?
Oh, okay. Les Miserables on Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah,
Luis Lacau. Eric Holmes.
Real quick, is this, maybe you mentioned it, but is it at all a adaptation of Les Miserables, or is it just share the name?
There is some relations to it, and I think one of the things is it's supposed to take place in the area where the original one took place. And you do have the idea of downtrodden and police and someone stealing something, and there's some parallels there if you want them, for sure.
So it's kind of like a very loose remake then.
Yeah, but you don't have to know that story at all to just appreciate it on its own. Like, you can just appreciate it on its own, but if you want to get those connections, it just enriches it. But it's a lot. It's a lot of fun and a really good, really quality movie. I saw it was on a lot of lists last year. Yeah. This is 2019. And I just saw it pop up, and I'm like, oh, I'll give this a chance. And it pulled me in, and it's a really, really quality movie. So nice. I'd say one of you might want to check it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for that. That sounds like a good one, honestly. I always thought it was just like a remake of the musical. So I was like, oh, great. No.
I think that's the problem. I think the name alone throws people off, and they just don't understand that it's not that at all. Yeah. So that's why I try to tell people, think French Training Day. If you do that, not quite as over the top, but if you do that, I think it'll draw you in more. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I don't know.
Sweet. All right.
I think I kind of want to check that out. Because, the name Les Miserables on its own, it's like, God, how many more versions of that do I need?
There are no musical numbers. No musical numbers at all. So.
Louis, before you get into the other pick, I forgot to ask you, though, Boing Boing, that film Boing Boing, did you get an idea when you saw it why your fiance it's one of her favorite movies?
She just loves Jewish comedy. That I've 100% gotten, yes, she likes Jewish comedy. And that's the next one that I want to go into. It actually stars Albert Brooks, Meryl Streep, and Rip Torn. It's written and directed by Albert Brooks, and this is a 1991 film, Defending Your Life.
I have not seen this movie.
Is glorious. This is hilarious. Imagine if you die and you actually have to defend what you did in your life. What would you do if you had a lawyer that helped you out and helped defend and actually identify the good and the bad and why you should actually move on or reincarnate? It's Albert Brooks. I mean, come on. Do I need to say more?
Well, how's Meryl Streep in this? Because enters the album. Okay.
She does a great job. I don't know, Bruce, you've seen it as well, right?
I have not seen Defending Your Life.
What'd you think of it? You haven't seen that, Greg?
No, I haven't checked it out. I've only seen, out of Albert Brooks, I've only seen Lost in America. I haven't seen Modern Romance. I did see, I think he did this movie with Sharon Stone called The Muse, and I think I interviewed either him or Sharon Stone for that movie. And
that's a good one too.
Yeah, that was not so bad. I was a little bit mixed on that, but Defending Your Life, this was just during a time when Albert Brooks was really,
prime.
In his prime. And this goes to what Eric Holmes being a writer. I remember reading a magazine article, and he was talking about how Albert Brooks writes screenplays he also did that movie that James L. Brooks movie. I think I'll Do Anything. One of those Brooks movies, but he was talking about how when he writes a screenplay or he has thoughts, he'll just turn on the recorder and just start talking
And you could tell
it out.
You could tell.
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be what do you call it? Little like you're gonna see gaps in the movie, and you're gonna be like questioning things and stuff like that. It's a comedy. Allow it to be a comedy. Enjoy it. There's gonna be faults in it, and there's gonna be a lot of questions that you're gonna ask yourself afterwards. But it's funny as fuck, and Meryl Streep performs so well. Bruce, what were your thoughts on this one?
Exactly what you said. I would agree. I always think of Albert Brooks as kind of like he's got like that some Woody Allen in him, but he's a lot less neurotic, a lot less nerdy, and a little more fantastical. There's always kind of a somewhat of a fantastical element, and I can't remember the name of it, but there's also a really early one he did, which is like one of the first like takes on reality television. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It was broadcast news?
Real life?
Before that. Real
was
life,
it called
maybe?
Real Life? Real life, maybe? I'm thinking it might be.
He did a version of. He basically predicted reality TV before it happened. He did this like. But
it is real life. Yeah.
But it's not reality TV. But it's like an idea of reality TV. And I remember that one being really interesting and unique too. And that's an early one of his. That's really good. Although I still think that the once again I always forget the name. You just mentioned it. The one where they're traveling across the United States. I still think that's his classic.
Lost in America.
Movie. Lost in America. I think is just
that's
shit.
a standout, definitely for sure. But this one, if you're in the mood for like kind of like a mind melding movie and just some light comedy in there mixed in and just some awkward moments, some really awkward comedy, it's really fun and it's definitely enjoyable. And honestly, it flies by. This film, it literally flies. There's not a moment of fat on this film. It really like just goes. And Meryl Streep's performance is really, really well done. Both of them stand out a lot, and it's just overall well performed. It's well shot. It has this moments where you could tell it's the 90s, but it adds to it, I think, more than anything else.
So it's streaming. Did you catch it streaming?
Yes, it's actually streaming on Showtime and HBO.
Showtime and HBO. Did any of you guys subscribe to HBO Max? I just plunked down because I don't have HBO Go.
No, but I will be next year when Gremlins: Secret of the Mogwai comes out.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
I do got some trivia for Albert Brooks.
Okay.
Actually, if you want to check him out on Wikipedia real quick, I'll look up what his actual name is.
Did you just change his Wikipedia page, Eric Holmes?
No. But while you're looking at that up, he's the brother of Super Dave Osborne. I think a lot of people know that.
Oh yeah,
yes.
I think I heard that.
Yes.
And do you have his real name there, Greg?
Let me see.
Albert Lawrence Einstein.
Albert Einstein.
Wow, Albert Lawrence
awesome.
Einstein. Very,
Albert
very cool.
Einstein. That's hilarious.
That is an interesting. Wow.
I looked that up one day, and I just happened to get it in a trivia question that week. I was like, "Oh, this is too perfect." So you're kind of stuck.
That is amazing. You know what? For our next pick, this is going to be a collaboration pick. Debt Collectors. Eric Holmes and I, we both saw Debt Collectors. I hope when I sent you that email, Mr. Holmes, that you were happy to see the link that you got for Debt Collectors.
Happy is a word. I would not use that for this because happy is not a strong enough word. Yes, I was quite ecstatic when I saw that. If I could have somehow jumped through the email and humped you through,
Oh no,
very good. That's a graphic.
We'll just stop there.
That is a very.
I liked it.
Bruce is just Well, that is quite the
consensual, of course.
Consensual, of course. Very consensual. We're buddies. And you know what? That does dovetail into Debt Collectors because Debt Collectors is essentially a buddy movie, and I like to think after the deep, heavy subject matter of avengement, because this was sort of a palate cleanser for avengement director Jesse V. Johnson and Scott Adkins. This was, look, we made Avengement, very heavy movie. Let's just make a low budget movie set in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. Maybe Los Angeles ended up doubling for Vegas Eric, maybe
Well, I mean, they mentioned Vegas a couple times, but I mean, it was also kind of a road movie too, because they're constantly driving from place to place. It was kind of unclear of how far away the places were from each other. But yeah, they definitely got a Los Angeles and Las Vegas vibe. Maybe it's somewhere USA that's kind of loosely based on, but yeah.
Yeah,
it was kind of a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, a little bit of everywhere. It's mainly like an LA set movie. It centers on these debt collectors. French is played by Scott Adkins, and Sue is played by Mandalore, Louis Mandalore. Okay, and it's a buddy comedy. So Sue is this guy who talks. I can barely do the voice, but he kind of talks like this. Hey, how you doing, Lucifer? Yeah. How you doing, Louis?
How you doing there? Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
how you doing?
Hey, Lucifer, how you doing? You got the thing there on your red, yeah, bro. Because he almost had like a little bit of accent, like DiCaprio from Blood Diamond sneaks in there.
Got it. Yeah.
There's like a little tiny bit of. It's like, well, you crazy? You never pay me first for that, man. You know what you're doing there, man.
They have a weird. It's a weird accent. And he always saying, "Hey, you want a box?" Yeah. So he always says, "Yeah." And then Scott Adkins has obviously his own voice. No one can do Scott Adkins. I mean, it's just a very tough voice to do.
Yeah.
But you have these guys talking back and forth, and they're just buddies. And essentially, debt collectors is they get hired by their former sort of boss, the guy who hires them to do these debt collection kind of situations, and he gives them 3 tasks to collect their debts. And so this movie is essentially these two guys, these 2 buddies, they're reunited after the last film, and they just collect from all these 3 people, but you realize that it's not exactly an easy job to collect from each of these. So essentially it's 3 action vignettes with a climax. I remember Eric last week was talking about sometimes with action movies, you can hang a very flimsy, in good, like a thin plot, as long as you have really good action and charisma from the actors. And I feel that's what Debt Collectors was. Eric, what do you think?
A little bit. It kind of went like Avengement. I think this hung a lot of it on the character, like the relationship between the characters. What's the guy's name?
Louis Mandalore.
Yeah. His character, like early on, it seemed to be like a caricature of like he didn't seem like a real character to me at first, and then Scott Adkins was great front to back, but as they went on, I kind of started feeling for that character a little more, and then his relationship with Scott Adkins, also with the boss that they're working for, because not to give anything away, but there's a point where it reveals where he's all in on his boss. Like he's ride or die for him, to where it's like, dude, let's just break, they find out some things happen. And it's like, let's break away. And it's like, I can't do that, man. Hey, yo, I can't do that, man.
I can't do that, man. I can't do that. Yeah.
He's like, we got history, and, I know I might be walking into, something I might not be walking out of, but I gotta
your own way. I go my own way.
I can't let you take the bag there, and I cannot let you take that bag. You give that bag back to me, and I might be taking the bag back to him. I may not walk out, but that bag's coming with me.
Right. No way. That's my bag. That's my bag right now. Give it to me. But no. So yeah, it's 97 minutes of just a buddy movie, but I thought the action sequences, they're not elaborate, but they kick ass. There's a boxing sequence, and actually, without giving too much away, Mandalore, because when you think of Scott Adkins, you think this guy just can kick anybody's ass, which is probably the case. But there's a sequence between where, when they're sometimes close friends, they end up having fisticuffs. The best part of the movie is when they go toe to toe. And I think this is a way to sell the movie in a way. It's really an interesting and actually an elaborate fight sequence that goes on for quite a while. I was surprised.
I was reminded a lot of They Live. If anyone that's seen They Live knows the overly long fight scene.
Sure.
And when Scott Adkins and the Mandalorian go toe to toe, It's like that. The fight goes on a little too long. But the great thing about the fight scene is as it goes on, you can just see them, they're starting to sweat. Like, they're starting to wear each other out, and the punch, they can't swing as hard anymore. But so then they start going for the nuts, and like the fighting, it's got really subtle, realistic bits to it. But like if you're paying attention, like a fight going on that long, you're not going to maintain your energy all the way through, and they don't. Right. And just like they constantly wind down as they go through the fight until they're just like both exhausted. And it goes on, like screen time, it goes on for a long time, just as I don't know if it went on as long as it did in They Live, but it reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a throwback because Jesse V. Johnson, when I interviewed him, he loves Westerns. So there's a little bit of a this is not a Western, but the score, it sounds like someone was really influenced by spaghetti Western. So there's a little bit of that into it, a little bit of that Western showdown mentality to it. And also this movie, Debt Collectors, it reminds you of those early to mid 90s straight to VHS or DVD action films, but with Adkins and Johnson and you're saying the Mandalore, when it's like an elevation of the genre. They decide like, hey, you know what? Let's take those movies from back in the day, which is probably is some kind of bargain bin, but let's make it an indie film with a lot of action, but let's elevate the quality of the film, which is interesting that they're working in that genre. So I ended up really enjoying Debt Collectors. Eric, your final thoughts on?
I would even go so far as to say that as much as I like the action in this and the fights are really brutal, I could have watched this movie without one fight in it because I love the characters' interactions and the mystery surrounding their debt collecting kept me involved throughout. And I also got to say, because we mentioned earlier, this is a sequel to The Debt Collector.
Yes.
And first of all, I definitely I'm going to go watch that this week for sure. We'll call it a mainline rewind, but I think this might be the first movie that I saw the sequel to. No, that's not true. Silence of the Lambs. But that I didn't know there was a sequel to. But yeah, it's a good movie. And I really love this and there's a couple more I need to see, but this Jesse V. Johnson and Scott Adkins team up.
Good team.
Because for the longest time, it's been Scott Adkins and Isaac Florentine early on in his directed video career. But as much as I like Isaac Florentine, and I'm not going to stop loving him, but this Jesse V. Johnson guy, him and Scott Adkins work really well together. And I am officially going to be excited for anything they do together moving forward.
I want to apologize to Luis Lacau and Bruce Purkey. In the upcoming episodes, there will just be a lot from me and Eric.
Adkins.
A lot of Scott Adkins. I have to throw down Hardline, Johnny and Hardline, that Hardline music. It's going to be Hardline music, rapid fire, and a lot of Scott Adkins. So I'm apologizing for both of us. Just straight ahead. Speaking of which, Bruce Purkey, what you got? What do you got?
Well, now I'm getting into the two movies. This is one of the two movies that are not really fully artistically defensible, but I had a lot of fun with them. The one that I'm starting with here is going to be the Blood Machines, which is an exclusive on Shudder. I don't know if anyone actually got around to watching Blood Machines. It is now. I think these are both pseudonyms. The director goes by Seth Ickerman. And it is, honestly, it's not even a full movie. They call it a series. They call this Series 1, and it's 3 episodes, but the whole time of it is about 50 minutes. So it's not even that long. And the best way I can describe it is if you took the Heavy Metal magazine, if you know the look of Heavy Metal magazine, old heavy metal album cover art like Frank Frazetta, Boris Vallejo, take that and mix it in the palette of Mandy, and then throw that into space, give it a little bit of Blade Runner, some bad acting, a lot of CGI, and give it a escaped space AI that is in the form of a naked lady with an upside-down cross flying through space, and you know what this movie's all about. And you have to add Carpenter Brute's dark wave synth score, which is spectacular. Now, if that sounds interesting to you, give it a try.
I'm down. I'm down for that journey.
I loved parts of it despite it. It's not really much more than a glorified music video, really. It's not much of a story, but it has some moments that are so epic where the colors and the animation and everything is just dazzling. That's what I said, I think, in my review. It was dazzling trash. And I think that's how I would describe it. If you want to know if it's something that might be up your alley, they teamed up together, Carpenter Brute, and did a video called Turbo Killer.
Turbo Killer, okay.
Which is very related to this.
Yeah. Okay.
Turbo Killer is just a music video for one of Carpenter Brute's songs, but it has a very, very similar aesthetic. And if you want to really go down a rabbit hole, Carpenter Brute has a lot of really interesting videos. He's got a whole one called, what is it called now? Leather Teeth or something? A whole album. And it's very Giallo-esque, where it's like this nerdy character that's trying to take revenge on cheerleaders, and he's dressed up in this like gimp uniform kind of a thing. And it's got all these like, it's just this is weird, but I think our group might go into it. So you could go to Carpenter Brute's like YouTube video link list and go down a rabbit hole. So Shudder exclusive, Blood Machines. You can eat these 3 episodes up easily in a sitting.
And they're 50 minutes each, you said?
50 minutes total.
What?
Yeah. Each episode is like, and they just connect. So I don't know why they were episodes. There's no reason. The episodes are like, one of them's like 15, one's like 20 something, another one's like 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And literally by about the end of the second one, you're getting through the title sequence. So you're like, it really... It really just, it really just sets up the story, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but damn, is it fun and visually interesting and musically cool. And there is some stuff in there that I look at, and I don't want to describe it because I don't want to spoil it, but there's some stuff in there that's like so cool to look at. It's pretty fun. I've watched parts of it again because I was just like, this is a lot of fun. So that is my second of my 3 suggestions for
the Blood Machines on Shudder.
Blood Machines.
Yes. I'm loving some of the Shudder original. I don't know if you saw the Joe Bob Briggs. Cannibal Holocaust.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, I need
to see that one.
Where you could watch the movie with it, or you could just listen to his commentary about it, which is fantastic because a lot of people will not watch that movie again.
Yeah.
Louis, what is your shirt for this week?
It's pretty rough.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is your shirt for this week, Louis?
Godzilla and Stay Puft.
Oh, that's very cool. Eric, you were saying something. What were we going to say, Eric? You had something to interject?
No, not important. I can't even remember what it was. It's probably just a little Tourette's.
Louis, you have you have a couple more picks for us?
I got one more pick. This is a Martin Scorsese film with Rosanna Arquette, and this is 1985, After Hours. I love this movie. This movie just, it's a day in the life, it's a night in the life of this one character where he gets out of work and he's in this mundane cubicle the whole time, like most of us are, these lives that are just like, oh God, what can I do to enhance my life? And he finds something to do that. And he goes down this rabbit hole in New York, and basically just, it's one shitstorm after another in the night. And it is just gloriously directed, gloriously acted. The cinematography in this is incredible. I love the feel of it. It drags you in. It makes you feel what this character is feeling. And it's just this weird, dark feeling in this movie. And I just love this movie so much.
Does it feel like a Martin Scorsese film? I have not seen this movie. I have not seen After Hours. Yes. Yeah.
It does and it doesn't. There's moments. I think, Bruce, you agree, right?
Yeah, I would say this is more on the line of like his things like King of Comedy.
Yeah.
Where it's like these weird, darkly tinged comedies that are also kind of satires. Because I think you didn't mention, but if I remember correctly, After Hours, it starts with he's going on a very first date with Arquette,
Yes.
And even when he first gets to her apartment, he's waiting for her, like she's getting dressed or something. This is me remembering it from like 20 years ago. I feel like he was standing there and he like looks down and there's like burn cream. And he's like, what? Burn cream? Why?
Yeah.
And then it just goes like the worst weird date ever. And it just goes like a night of weirdness. Yeah.
It really does. And it also stars Cheech and Chong, which is hilarious, their segment in it. And it's just weird little vignettes of life. And if you've ever lived in a major city and stuff like that, and you just randomly decide to go out, this is something that can actually happen to you. A lot of these things and a lot of these weird moments and the weird creatures that you find in the middle of the night. You know, I remember going out at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning and going to like a Denny's or something like that and encountering people like this, and just things that happen at night, and they will only happen at night at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, in the middle of like South Beach and stuff like that. And you have stories for a lifetime from it. And that's what it feels like. It feels like Scorsese grabbed something.
It's Griffin Dunne, right?
It's Griffin Dunne, yeah.
Yeah.
It
if
has
you haven't
one.
If you haven't seen American Werewolf in London, that's like the most awesome thing Griffin Dunne ever did.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, well, Griffin Dunne, I mean, After Hours, it has one of the most iconic posters I've ever seen, which is that clock, and Griffin Dunne's head is on that.
Twisting.
Yeah, the one that's twisting that little, and then it's such a beautiful poster. That's a beautiful poster. I can't.
Really
Eric, have you seen that movie? Have you seen After Hours?
No, I'm getting that mixed up with is it New York Stories?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I'm getting those two mixed up.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that the title doesn't do it justice, I think.
Yeah.
And it becomes very forgettable, especially the cover. It blends in with a lot of other movies around that time, too.
Yeah.
Where did you see this, Eric? I mean, Louis, where did you see it?
This was Showtime as well.
Showtime? Whoa. Okay. I've got to get the Showtime streaming thing going.
I know, seriously. Like, I've been listening to the Film Vault, and it's like, dude, all their things are Showtime now. Every single thing.
Wow.
They've been really grabbing a lot of movies from there, so.
Yeah, I never heard of the Film Vault. I prefer this other show that Anderson does, but the Asian dude on it is really annoying. They should kick that idiot out. But
well, Film Vault is starring Brian Bishop and Andrew Cowan.
Which one's Asian?
Really you should.
I think Brian.
You should listen to it.
Is Brian really Asian? Because I think Anderson calls that Asian guy Brian Bishop so many times at every episode. it's ridiculous. But Eric Holmes, what do you got? Am I going the wrong way, Louis? You're good at this. Who's next? Yeah, Eric, you're next.
Yeah, Eric.
Well, how much time?
Good last pick, by the way, Louis. Sorry.
How much time we got? We got a lot of time or a little bit of time?
Did you pull the? I have 11 picks here. I have 11 picks, and I'm just gonna throw them out here.
Not 11, but we got a couple on here.
Oh no!
We'll go with this one.
I'll just get this
one. I'll just get this one out of the way because I don't know how much I can recommend this to people.
Okay.
But I seem to watch it at least once a week.
Okay.
Take that for what it is. It's a documentary about Harlan Ellison from 2008 called Dreams with Sharp Teeth. And it's the thing I love about this is I just love listening to Harlan Ellison. If you've ever seen interviews with him or videos of him, he's just a complete curmudgeon. He's like a little chihuahua. You just poke at it. It's like he just his short stories are wonderful, and it's just funny listening to him just freak out about things and just rant about stuff. There's not much of it. Like, it goes through his whole life. But that's not the reason I just keep like it. I've watched it so many times that I'll put it on YouTube because I bought it on YouTube, and I'll just listen to it just because I like listening to your Harlan Ellison talk about stuff and rant about everything. Again, it's not a solid recommendation, but if you like to listen to people freak out.
Wait, what makes it not solid? Because Ellison seems like
there's no interesting story to it. It's just people talking about how great Harlan Ellison's writing is, people talking about how much of an asshole Harlan Ellison is, and then it's peppered throughout with Harlan Ellison being an asshole. showing how great of a writer he is, and just there's nothing. And if you're not a fan of Harlan Ellison, or you don't like take to his character right away, there's nothing here for you. Like if you get like 10, 15 minutes into it, and it's like, oh, I like this guy.
Yeah,
this guy's
when I lived,
and I kind of like watching him, get poked. Then like the whole thing. So it's it's tough to recommend. But if you're like me and that sort of his personality grabs you, I would definitely watch it.
Yeah, when I lived in downtown LA, there was this guy who used to check out all the books. Those people who check out the books, and he was just this really ornery guy and very kept to himself. But you'd feel like you were being judged by the kind of books you were checking out. And I think I never did read. I think I checked out one of Harlan Ellison's books. Maybe it was a short story collection that I was gonna do. It was one of
them are short stories.
Yeah. So after several years of just seeing this guy, he suddenly stops and looks at it, and he starts telling me about how Harlan Ellison is someone he really loves, but he's a complete, total a-hole. But he said Harlan Ellison is his favorite. Oh, look, man.
Real quick, if we have a minute,
yes,
Brandon.
Hello.
Brandon, you want to tell them who you are?
Brandon.
And remember, we saw Beastmaster.
We watched Beastmaster.
You want to tell them about a Beastmaster?
Oh, that's so cool.
What was your favorite part of Beastmaster?
He did this.
That's
nice.
awesome.
Nice.
Do you have anything else to say about Beastmaster?
Good recommendation.
His dog died.
Aww.
Really?
Oh, no spoilers. That's it. No more beer for you.
That's okay. No more. That's
It's
okay.
a weeknight. You're not supposed to be drinking.
That's okay. That's okay. That is a little bit of a big spoiler there, but it's fine. It's fine.
All right.
It's totally fine.
You want to say bye?
Bye.
So you guys have fun.
You guys have fun.
Okay,
You too.
thanks, man. Pleasure meeting you. That is a very indelible. That is a noise that noise from the Beastmaster is going to be ingrained in my memory.
Fire. Boop, boop, boop.
All right.
But so,
Well,
yeah,
that was a nice exclusive interview. I just thought we'd drop that in real quick.
We had someone in our little universe there, our enclosed universe. But yeah, I mean, Harlan Ellison is one of those writers. Have you guys, Louis or Bruce, have you been a fan of his work? All I know about Ellison is
never.
he did The City on the Edge of Forever from Star Trek, which is my favorite Star Trek episode ever. But that's all. I guess Eric is the resident Harlan Ellison fan.
Yeah, he's one of those names that always pops up, but I never can remember what he has written. But every time I hear it, I go like, "Oh wow, he wrote that too." It's one of those kind of deals,
Yeah, so his most famous short story would be "I Have No Mouth and I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream." It's basically it's the end of the world. AI AIM took over, and there's only like about 5 people left, and they're in the middle of the earth, and this supercomputer essentially makes these humans immortal just so he can torture them for eternity. Because the computer's point of view was, you built me with this intelligence, and I'm stuck inside this machine. I can't do anything. I'm in prison. You did this to me, and I hate you so much. I'm going to do the same to you. You will wish you were dead. You will never die. I will make sure you guys will never die. And it's about as dark as it gets.
You ever watch that Next Gen episode with that they actually introduce fear, and it's kind of a similar plot to what you said. It's basically like a computer program, and this thing is fear, and he wants to make you feel fear. So he finds that episode is freaking glorious.
Another thing Harlan Ellison did was with Terminator, and they touch a little bit on this in the documentary, is Terminator. There was I think it was called The Soldier. I don't know if it was one of his short stories, but it was definitely something like something he wrote on wasn't the Twilight Zone, but it was like one of those type of shows. Outer Limits, maybe. I think it was called The Soldier. But there was an interview with James Cameron It's like, where'd you get the idea for a Terminator? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, basically we just cribbed Harlan Ellison. And Harlan Ellison is litigious as fuck.
Oh,
Okay.
And so he's like,
thank
I
you
wrote
for
that
that
story.
money.
I wrote that story, and you stole it from me. Now pay me. It's not your fucking
Nice.
Warner Bros. Give me some goddamn money, or don't take my fucking.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, he's been an influence to. He's probably more famous for stuff that he's influenced as opposed to the work itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, his short stories are great, and he's just fucking funny to watch in general.
I have my one top pick for this episode. Have any of you guys, we're talking about The Haunting of Hill House, but have any of you guys been a fan of, I guess, the movies, but most importantly, the books of Shirley Jackson? You know, The Lottery, or Bruce, I'm thinking maybe you might have read, or maybe The Cinema of Shirley Jackson is, you're probably...
Well, The Haunting, of course, is like one of my most influential movies of all time, the original Haunting. And then the Lottery. I mean, everyone's read The Lottery in high school pretty much. But I love The Haunting so much.
So my second question to you guys is, are each of you a big fans of Elizabeth Moss?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
She's
Eric?
amazing.
Yeah? Yeah?
I keep thinking of the.
You keep thinking of what? Your audio.
We lost you.
We're losing
What
you.
happened?
We're losing you.
You mute yourself?
Yeah, I think. No, I didn't mute him. I think I'm losing Eric. But look, Shirley is. I think. Hold on.
She was in Invisible Man recently.
Yeah, she was in Invisible Man earlier this year. But I think we lost Eric Holmes. Can you hear us a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
we got
there
you.
we go.
We're back.
Okay, we're back. But Elizabeth Moss, she stars in this new film called Shirley. Okay, and she plays Shirley Jackson. Okay.
Oh.
Now, yes.
I've been waiting for this one. This is on my list for sure.
Okay, so it says here it opens everywhere on June 5th. So what I'm thinking is maybe in select theaters or drive-ins, virtual cinemas,
Yeah, drive-ins.
or hopefully
We have
digital.
We have a drive-in.
Yeah,
Oh.
same here.
As do we.
But I'm waiting for anything to be there. So
Yeah, for us it's a 2-hour drive. So I'm like, no, that's not happening, dude.
But
all right, Shirley, go.
if you're a fan of Elizabeth Moss and Shirley Jackson, she does. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. This
Yes.
movie surely reminds me of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf because
wow.
essentially Elizabeth Moss, I think she delivers one of her best performances, and I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if she's, well, this is a weird year anyway, if she receives an Oscar nomination for her work in Shirley. Okay, so the plot line is Shirley Jackson and her husband, played by Michael Stolberg from A Serious Man, Boardwalk Empire, and what was it? Call Me by Your Name. Their husband and wife. Michael Stolberg plays the professor. The husband of Shirley Jackson, he sort of needles her a bit. She looks up to him, but she hates him. They have this weird, contentious relationship. She's Shirley friggin' Jackson. She's the more successful one, but he's the professor in this local college. So he's the one who has all the clout with the community. So, and she's the one who's a hermit. She won't leave the house. For her, it's all about just writing. And she is just a very eccentric individual. What happens is Logan Lerman and Odessa, I believe her name is Odessa Young. They're the young actors in this movie. They play husband and wife. They play, I guess, sort of newlyweds, Odessa Young and Logan Lerman. They come in and Logan Lerman's character, he is a teacher's assistant, and he gets a job working under this professor, and Shirley centers on the relationship among these four people. And then it hones in on the relationship between the younger woman, played by Odessa Young, and Shirley Jackson, who sort of becomes a mentor figure for her. So it's directed by Josephine Decker, and she directed this film in 2018 called Madeline's Madeline. And that, when it was released a couple of years ago, it was critically acclaimed. It's an indie film. I still haven't seen it. After watching Shirley, I'm definitely going to go back and check out Madeline's Madeline. And this movie is just really, it's performance driven. And if you're a big fan of Elizabeth Moss and that film Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, this movie is one to watch. There's a lot of standout performances. The young Logan Lerman really isn't in this movie that much. It's more of that girl Odessa Young. This is the first time I've seen her in anything. She does a really good job at going toe to toe with Elizabeth Moss in this film. So Shirley opens everywhere, available everywhere on June 5th, starring Elizabeth Moss, Michael Stolberg, Odessa Young, and Logan Lerman.
So I take it Moss is kind of the Elizabeth Taylor role, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and Michael Stolberg, he has sort of a secondary role, but he's very, very good in this. He's a Richard Burton type.
Gotcha.
Richard Burton, and then the George Segal and what's Sandy Dennis? I think that's the other.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's high praise, though. High praise.
It's not as great or as iconic as Mike Nichols's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, because it's hard to ever beat that film. But this movie comes close. This is a 4-star film for me. So. Surely. So take it with a grain of salt. So that is my only pick. I'm gonna run around. Any final picks? I know Eric had. Oh, okay. Bruce.
I have one.
Yes, got it.
Okay. This is so. If you like So Bad They're Good kind of movies, this should get right into your list right away. I see Eric on Moo. So this is a movie I've seen and seen bits and pieces of around forever, but I never got around to watching it, which is really weird because I usually have seen this kind of movie by now. It's from 1973. It is on Amazon Prime. It originally was titled The Death Wheelers, but commonly it goes by Psychomania.
Oh,
and
I didn't know this was available.
Amazing movie in awfulness and awesomeness at the same time. So it's directed by Don Sharp. I don't think he's done a lot that's great. And then your main actor is Mickey Henson as Tom. And he looks kind of like a pretty boy Malcolm McDowell, sort of from that era. And the main woman in it is Abby, played by Mary Larkin. Now, here's the basic concept. He is the leader of a biker gang called the Living Dead. Now, they are about the most unscary biker gang you've ever seen. They've got the Living Dead painted on the back of their jackets. They are almost like Grease level biker gang, but they're supposed to be really scary. And the opening of the movie is them going in a circle around this kind of like Stonehenge field, right? So you're like, what's happening here? And I'll just give you a name of some of the members of the biker gangs. There's Hatchet, there's Chopped Meat, there's Gash, Hinky. These are the members of the biker gang. Now, it's awesome. One of the very first scenes is Tom is making out with Abby in the graveyard. They're making out on the gravestone, next to the gravestone. And in the middle of their makeout session, he stops to catch a frog. Or toad, I should say. He catches the toad, and he says, "Hey, we should go to the other side, man." And she's like, "What?" He's like, "Let's do it. Let's kill ourselves and go to the other side." And she's like, "Huh?" So she doesn't go for it. He takes the frog, sticks it in his jacket, goes back home to his medium mom and his really creepy butler named Shadwell. And Shadwell is played by the awesome George Sanders. Do we know who George Sanders is?
Yes, I do. George Sanders.
All About Eve, Rebecca. Yeah. This is a classic actor.
Wow.
This is
Colonel
his final
George
movie.
Sanders.
This is his final movie. He killed himself after this movie.
Nice. Well, not nice, but that's the thing.
Wow. And in this movie, him and Shadwell and the mom of this guy are like this creepy occultic duo. And basically the idea is that if Tom kills himself intentionally and isn't scared to do it, he'll come back from the dead. The movie is incredibly ridiculous. It's got so many great scenes of them terrorizing the town in just the most cheesy ways possible. And a standout scene, and you can't really spoil it because you're going to watch this movie, you're going to watch it because it's so bad. Standout scene is, not to spoil anything, but Tom does kill himself, and he might come back from the dead. I won't tell you. But there's an awesome scene where his funeral is, he's being buried where all the Stonehenge stuff is, right? They got a big giant grave. They're burying him sitting on his motorcycle.
I just saw the stills for that.
He's sitting on his motorcycle, and the grave isn't even deep enough to cover his head. I don't even know how they're going to bury him. And while he's there, one of the members of the band, or one of the members of the gang, is singing this horrible like folk song called "Riding Free." And there's this whole sequence of singing "Riding Free," all about like riding free and being like cool and in a biker gang. And I just got to say, this movie is, yeah, that's it.
How did you come across this again?
I had seen this like forever. Oh, their visors go down, and their visors of their motorcycle helmets look like little skulls. It's a British movie.
That's the only thing I ever saw. It was a spoof of this, and it was just them writing with that. And I think it was like a Michael Jackson song or something playing in the background.
I had seen footage or like stills of this movie forever, and I never got around to watching it. I finally said, I'm going to watch this movie. And it is so much stupid fun. I just can't describe all the occultism, all the ridiculousness of the biker gang. It's just from beginning to end, it's just cheesy awesomeness. So if you are into that at all, this is something that, I mean, it's not long either. It's like, I don't know, 87 minutes or 90 minutes or something. It's stupendously stupid fun. And it's also not, there's not like a lot of nudity. There's not a lot of like super gory violence, and there's some actually surprisingly good motorcycle stunt work where I feel like everyone was in danger of dying. There's scenes because there's
good on you for not dying, right?
Yeah,
other than
scenes,
George Sanders.
Yeah, there's scenes where the motorcycle gang is like riding. You can tell they're actually riding fast. There's someone following behind them, filming them, and there's traffic going both ways, and they're weaving through it. And I'm like, there is no way that would pass like the the unions these days.
Yeah, definitely not.
So Psychomania on Amazon Prime, if you want just like
Is it under Psychomania or the Death Wheelers? Because on IMDb it's under the Death Wheelers.
Yeah, they usually list it under the Death Wheelers. That's the official title.
Okay.
I believe it's under Psychomania on Amazon Prime. Okay. And I definitely guarantee if you watch the first 30 minutes, I mean, there is oh my God, it's so stupid fun. It's good.
Wow. This seems like a movie that Eric Holmes would have brought up. It seems like a movie that Eric Holmes would probably cover on
do we have a minute? Because I looked up George Sanders as he was talking about it. Yes. And I'm on his Wikipedia page. Let me just read this to you. George Sanders suffered from dementia, worse by waning health, and visibly teetered in his last films, owing to a loss of balance. Sanders grew increasingly reclusive and depressed due to a string of tragedies, including the loss of his wife, his mother, his brother Tom, in the space of a year, followed by a failed sausage investment, which cost him millions. According to Ahern's biography, he also had a minor stroke. Wow. Sanders could not bear the prospect of losing his health or needing help to carry out everyday tasks and become deeply depressed. At about the time, he found that he could no longer play his grand piano, so he dragged it outside and smashed it with an axe. His last girlfriend persuaded him to sell his beloved house in Spain, which he later bitterly regretted. From then on, he drifted. Sanders checked in on 23rd April 1972. Sanders checked into a hotel in Castle Defelde, a coastal town near Barcelona. He died of cardiac arrest 2 days after swallowing the contents of 5 bottles of barbiturates. He left behind 3 suicide notes, one which read, "Dear world, I'm leaving because I'm bored. I feel like I've lived long enough. I'm leaving you with the worries in this sweet cesspool. Good luck." Man, that guy he did it. He did it.
He did it. My goodness.
And the creepy thing is, you watch this movie, it is all about people committing suicide. The whole thing is about people committing suicide. It's so weird. Oh my God.
I got to know, is there a documentary on this George Sanders guy? 'Cause just reading that, I'm like, I want to know more.
Right.
I have to know more about this guy.
Can you imagine that?
Jesus, what an eccentric. Wow. I want to see more. Like, if you find something, please comment and put it on the Facebook page, because I want to see something too.
Eric, we're gonna leave with you. You have one more pick before we go.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I'll save that. I did another Hammer movie, but I'll save that for maybe later on when we do another Hammer retrospective. Yeah. But I did see a 1962 movie by David Miller, starring Kirk Douglas, Gina Rollins, and Walter Matthau, called "Lonely Are the Brave." Anyone see this one?
Ooh, I've never seen that.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Okay, Kirk Douglas is kind of a drifter, and he I didn't know this when I watched the movie, but apparently that was around the time when kind of in between the old West times and I guess modern times where there's cities and such, cities, houses, and so he's kind of trying to he's one of the guys that hasn't quite adjusted to the new world yet. But he strolls into town on his horse, and the horse is scared of all the cars around, and basically what he wants to do is he wants to get in a fight and go to jail because his buddy's in jail, and he wants to go to jail, break him out, and so that's what he does. He gets in a fight with the one-armed man, and so
with a one-armed man.
Yeah, one-armed man. He ties his hand behind the back. The one-armed man doesn't have an arm. He just only has one arm. So they get in a fight, and he gets his ass kicked. And then the cops show up, and they're like, well, you've been tuned up enough. We're just going to pretend this didn't happen. And he's like, Kirk Douglas really needs to go to jail. So he just fucking hauls off and knocks the cop out. And they're like, that's it, buddy. You're going in. So they bring him to jail, and he goes in to break his buddy out. His buddy's like, dude, I got like 2 weeks left. I'm not breaking out of jail when I got 2 weeks left. He's like, you have fun. He's like, all right, well. So he breaks himself out of jail. And then from there, the cops are chasing him. And the rest of the movie becomes very similar to First Blood.
Oh.
It's just him up in the mountains and with the cops trying to get him. It's just the end of First Blood and the end of Lonely of the Brave are really similar. The only difference is how they each got there. Rambo and Kirk Douglas got there in different ways, but it's if you watch it, you'll see Walter Matthau basically plays a Brian Dennehy role, and Gina Rollins is in it for 5 seconds, and so. But yeah, it's a really, really fun movie, really good, and I don't know. It was one of those. I got on a Kirk Douglas kick, and I've come to find that he's in a bunch of really good movies.
Yeah,
He's the man. Kirk Douglas is the man.
But yeah, Lonely Are the Brave. I would absolutely check this one out.
Kirk Douglas and Walter Matthau. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Where's that one streaming at, by the way?
I have it on DVD. I think you probably rent it. I didn't really check. I need to start writing notes.
Eric, do you have a DVD collection? Do you guys have a DVD collection where there's just movies you just haven't seen and it's just been sitting in your residence for years? Oh, you don't? No.
Not that I haven't
sort
seen.
Of. Like for instance, there's I got 3 movies in the box behind me, and I haven't seen them, but that's because they're my sister's movies, and I don't know how they got in there. So, but yeah. Sometimes like I'll go get and go to Entertainment Mart and find like 5-6 movies, and then for some reason like one of those will just kind of fall through the cracks, and I'll just forget to watch it, and then come across it later and go, oh wow, I haven't seen this one, and then pick it up. It happens. Not too many of them, but yeah, it happens.
I wish there was used movie stores around here anymore. There's nothing. Like they had Movie Stop for the longest time, and I love that place, but nothing anymore. It sucks.
We have Second and Charles. You have Second and Charles? That's like a chain. Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah. This is the one I have finally going to get around to seeing, which I've had forever, and I haven't watched it yet. But this one is finally going to.
Lady Snowblood. Okay, so
someone talking about that online.
Yes, Luis, you're a fan of Lady Snowblood? Are you?
I haven't seen it. I've never seen it. I've always heard about it, but I've never seen it.
And Eric, and then the clip completes Lady Snowblood. Eric, you're a fan of Lady Snowblood?
Yeah, it's one of those. I've seen it a long time ago. The only thing I remember about it is that there's a bunch of very cool. You'll watch that and you'll see a lot of Kill Bill in it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go off on Quentin Tarantino because it's just something you just don't do. You don't. It's like there are things you just don't. You don't push. You don't on your Instagram feed or your Twitter feed or Facebook feed. You don't put the hashtag All Lives Matter on a Tuesday. What's one thing you don't do? You don't go against QT. You don't go against Quentin Tarantino. And one of the reasons why is because he's the man. But to your point, if you watch, I just recently watched Lady Snowblood, and even though Tarantino says Lady Snowblood was a huge influence, it feels like, and I haven't seen City on Fire and compared that with Reservoir Dogs. I should have done that years ago. But you take Lady Snowblood, it's like he took the script, translated it, put it on a Xerox copy, and then just maybe put his name on it, slapped his name. Because the theme of revenge is there, the snow going down.
The list of people.
The list of people. You know, when he did The Hateful Eight, that Western several years ago, I love that movie. That's my favorite QT film. It's not his best, but I'm a Western guy. And I was thinking, oh man, he's so awesome. He breaks his, as Lewis says, no, that's not even close to his number one, right? But
I'm not a huge QT fan, so.
Oh, brothers in arms then. Well, I like QT. I like QT, but I was like, he's amazing. He does Hateful Eight. It's broken down into several chapters. Who does that? Well, the director from Lady Snowblood did that years ago. It just seems like he took all. It's like if I decided, Eric, you're telling me about one of these days I've got to write a script. It's like if I decided to write a suspense thriller and use it as a pastiche of all of Brian De Palma's movies and just mix and match it and then come up with my own homage. Yeah. And that's what, I mean, I'm not saying Tarantino is talented to the heavens, but man, after watching Lady Snowblood, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, we should talk about it next week, because I'm going to have watched it by next week. So let's sweet.
We'll talk about QT next week, and maybe this might be something that'll get us a lot of people get hating on me or Bruce or something. That as long as you get audience engagement. Now, anything else you guys want to say, Luis Lacau, before we leave it? You want to say something? Anything? Just
if you want to check out manbitesfilm.com, you can check out all the different podcasts that we do. Just go onto that website.
Yes, Luis has a great crew with his whole Man Bites Media, Man Bites Film universe. I was lucky enough to talk to Luis and Brandon and William Phoenix, great guides there. And of course, your fiance. I mean, I've heard a little bit of you guys going back and forth. You guys should do more podcasts together. Eric Holmes, how many movies did you really have on the docket this week? As far as how many do you have in your bag?
I had for this week I had probably two more.
Okay.
But I'll save those.
You save those, yeah. You have a reservoir of stuff. Bruce Purkey, Brucifer, anything you also want to say?
Just check out. I do at least 2 or 3 videos, movie reviews on my YouTube a week. Rusto Meyer, Rustomire. And a lot of times it's ones I feature on here too, but sometimes it's not. I do some other weird little things on there as well. So check it out.
And they are awesome, by the way. And
thank you.
I've watched a lot of movies because of you, honestly. And I'm like, dude, your reviews are spot on every time.
Thanks, man.
Before we go, I just also wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to Luis Lacau. He's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting the last ever since he puts up the podcast audio. He puts it up on YouTube. He manages the Facebook page. So props to you, Luis, for really spearheading this and putting us under the Man Bites Media, Man Bites Film umbrella. So thank you so much, sir, for that. Really appreciate that.
You're, hiding.
He's hiding. He's too modest, but he does a lot of work for the show that we should have been. I blame it on Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey. I blame you guys for not thanking him. You made me thank him, right? No, I'm kidding.
Thank you, Luis.
We will be back next week, folks, with more movie recommendations. The most important thing is also I'm going to throw in, maybe down the line, I might throw in some of my celebrity interviews, and I'm going to find a way where I can shoehorn some of that celebrity filmmaking stuff into our universe. We are Movie Mainline, Luis Lacau, Bruce Purkey, Eric, bring back Andrew Watches Movies, Eric Holmes, also known as the Beastmaster, and I am Greg Debt Collector. Anderson Cowan calls me Brian Bishop Srisavasdi. We will see you next week here on Movie Mainline. Take care, guys.